Welcome back to the deep dive. You know, our goal here is always to plunge into these fascinating topics to give you the essential insights, basically a shortcut to being really well informed. And today, well, we're embarking on a pretty incredible journey into Hindu epic history. We're going deep on the Gandivam.
Ah, Arjuna's bow.
Yes, exactly. His legendary divine bow. We want to uncover its secrets, talk about its immense power, sure, but also its deeper symbolic meaning. Because it seems like it's much more than just a weapon.
Oh, absolutely. And for this deep dive, we've gathered quite a collection of sources. We're drawing mainly from the Mahabharata itself, naturally, but also pulling from various Puranic traditions, those ancient Hindu texts. They really elaborate on the myths, the legends, the genealogies.
Right.
So yeah, this isn't just reading a story. It's exploring this really rich tapestry of, well, history, divine power, and honestly, some pretty profound philosophy woven in.
Okay, let's unpack this then, starting with its origins. What made the Gandivam so fundamentally different? How did it even come to be?
Well, that's what's immediately striking its celestial lineage. This wasn't some bow forged by, human hands. Our sources tell us it was actually created by Brahma, the creator god himself.
Wow, okay, Brahma.
Yeah, and it was initially used by the gods, sort of passed down this divine chain. Brahma to Prajapati, then to Indra, the king of gods, and eventually it ended up with Varuna, the god of the oceans.
So it had quite the journey even before Arjuna.
Exactly, and it was Varuna who gifted it to Arjuna.
Yeah.
This happened during Arjuna's exile, a period when he was really preparing spiritually and martially for the huge conflict to come, the Kurukshetra War. And right from that moment, it was clear this wasn't just a weapon being handed over. It was framed as a divine trust, a tool specifically intended to help restore balance, dharma, in a world that was really sliding into a dharma, into unrighteousness.
A divine trust, I like that. So it had a purpose baked in from the start. Okay, beyond that incredible origin, what about its features, its powers? The script mentions it was unbreakable and radiant.
Yes, definitely. Its physical description alone is pretty awe-inspiring.
Well,
Unbreakable, glowing. It even had this golden string that apparently never wore down. Imagine that.
Huh. No wear and tear.
Right. But then there's its potency in battle. Terrifying is the word often used. It could apparently unleash hundreds of arrows in a single draw.
Hundreds? How is that even possible?
Well, it's partly the divine nature of the bow, but it's also crucial to remember Arjuna's mastery. His skill was unparalleled. And then he could channel divine astras through the Gandivam.
Ah, the astras. These are like celestial superweapons, right?
Exactly, often tied to elements or cosmic forces. Things like the Angelica, which could be powered by a deity's energy, the Agnya for fire, Vayavya for wind, and even sometimes the Pashupatastra, Shiva's ultimate weapon of destruction. But these require the right mantras, the sacred chants, to activate.
Okay, so it's the bow, the archer, and these invoked powers working together.
Precisely. And don't forget the psychological aspect. Sources describe its thunderous twang like a lion's roar or a storm crackling. It wasn't just about hitting targets, it was about striking terror into the enemy ranks.
Wow.
But, crucially, despite all this power, it was also incredibly precise. And this is important. It was said to be only unleashed when righteousness demanded it. It wasn't for vanity or aggression.
That link to righteousness again. Okay, so with all this power and this inherent integrity, how did the Gandivam actually shape events in the Mahabharata? What were its big moments?
Oh, it was absolutely central. Really pivotal moments hinge on it. You first see its significance, maybe unexpectedly, at Draupadi Swayamvara.
Right, the contest for her hand in marriage.
Exactly. Arjuna, disguised as a Brahmana, a priest basically, steps up when all these kings and princes have failed. He uses the Gandivam, which probably raised some eyebrows, to perform this impossible archery challenge.
Yeah.
That's how he wins Draupadi.
The dramatic entrance, using a divine bow while in disguise.
Very. Then later, there's the burning of the Gandiva forest. A really intense episode. Arjuna, with Krishna at his side, wields the Gandivam to fight off numerous gods, including Indra himself, to allow Agni, the fire god, to consume the forest.
Fighting gods, okay, the power level is immense.
Immense. But its most defining role, without a doubt, was during the Kurukshetra War. That's where it truly becomes Arjuna's weapon of justice. He uses it to take down some of the most formidable warriors on the opposing side. Bhishma, the grandsire, Karna, his own half-brother and rival, Jayadratha. The list goes on.
So it was instrumental in the pen of his victory, but it wasn't just a battlefield tool, right? You mentioned its role in the Bhagavad Gita, that moment of death.
Yes, that's arguably one of the most profound moments connected to the bow, even though it's about not using it initially.
Oh, so...
Well, Arjuna is on the chariot, sees his family, his teachers on the other side, and he falters. He's overwhelmed by the idea of fighting them, of the killing involved, and he literally lays down his bow, the Gandivam.
He puts it down.
He puts it down. And that's when Krishna delivers the core teachings of the Gita. He challenges Arjuna's despair, his inaction. And he says those famous words, Glebhyam masma gamapartha naitat tafayupapadyate.
Which means?
Essentially, do not yield to impotence, O Partha Arjuna. This doesn't suit you. He's urging him to overcome this paralysis, this weakness, and pick up his duty, pick up his bow. So in that moment, the Gandivam isn't just a physical object, it represents his dharma, his duty as a warrior. Krishna basically says picking it up again is the path of right action. It becomes this symbol, the line between doing what's necessary, even if painful, and giving in to despair.
Wow. So the act of reclaiming the bow becomes the turning point.
Exactly. It's not just a weapon anymore. It's the embodiment of his resolve to follow his dharma, which, kind of makes you think, what does that say to you in your moments of doubt when you face those really hard choices?
That's a powerful question. It definitely shifts the perspective. It's not just an instrument of war, it's loaded with symbolism. What other symbolic layers are there? You mentioned Dharma's enforcer.
Yes, that's a key one. It stands for divinely sanctioned action. Its use is tied directly to upholding truth and righteousness, not personal ambition.
Okay.
Then there's the idea of inner strength and focus. Think about archery itself. It requires incredible balance, patience, mental clarity. The Gandivam reflects Arjuna's own spiritual discipline and mental mastery. You couldn't wield something like that without immense inner control.
That makes sense, like the archer and the bow become one.
Right. And third, we touched on this, the divine trust. The fact it came from the gods and was given to a mortal. It suggests that humans can become channels, vessels of the divine, but only when they let go of ego and align themselves with a higher purpose, like Arjuna did eventually.
Surrender of ego.
And finally, it connects directly to karma yoga, the path of selfless action that Krishna teaches Arjuna. Fight, do your duty, but without attachment to the results, without desire for personal gain. The Gandivam, in this light, becomes a physical representation of that principle. Action without desire, karma performed as a form of worship.
So many layers. Dharma, inner strength, divine trust, selfless action. It's quite profound. Which one resonates most when you think about it?
That's a tough one. For me, perhaps the divine trust aspect is particularly compelling. The idea that such power comes with immense responsibility, and it's tied to purpose, not possession.
I can see that. Okay, so after all this, its divine origin, its incredible power, its deep symbolism, its role in the war, we get to its end, which is, wow, kind of surprising, isn't it? Why would such a mighty divine weapon just be discarded?
It is surprising at first glance, but it's also deeply meaningful within the narrative. The sources explain that after Krishna departs the world, the Dwapar Yuga, the age of heroes, effectively ends. The Kali Yuga begins, which is seen as an age of declining dharma, spiritual darkness.
A different era altogether.
Exactly. And Arjuna finds, startlingly, that he can no longer string the Gandivam with the same effortless power. He struggles. The divine energy seems to have faded, or perhaps his connection to it has weakened in this new age. The bow, essentially like the epic age it represented, had outlived its time. Its purpose was fulfilled.
So its power was tied to the age itself.
It seems so. Tied to the age, tied to the presence of figures like Krishna, tied to the specific dharma it was meant to uphold. So, as the Pandavas prepare for their final journey, renouncing their kingdom and walking towards the Himalayas, Arjuna makes a final gesture. He casts the Gandivam into the sea, returning it to Varuna, the god who first gave it to him.
Back to the ocean god.
Yes. The understanding is that it was never meant to linger in an age without dharma. Its presence belonged to a time when righteousness, even amidst conflict, had a certain divine clarity that was now fading.
That's a very powerful, almost melancholy ending for such an object. But of course, people love speculating, don't they? Even if the epic says it was returned to the sea, there are theories about its current potential whereabouts. What do those stories say?
Oh, absolutely. Legends love loose ends, or maybe possibilities. Despite the text saying it went back to Varuna, you hear various theories. Some believe it's still hidden somewhere in the depths of the Indian Ocean, maybe protected in some undiscovered underwater temple or cavern, waiting.
Waiting for what?
Presumably for a time when Dharma rises again, or for a worthy wielder. Other traditions place it in Patalaloka, the netherworld, essentially guarded by Nagas or other divine beings. Then there's the more mystical view that it might have dematerialized, that its physical form is gone, but it exists on subtle astral planes.
Accessible how?
Only through intense spiritual practice, deep meditation, what they call tapasya. It becomes less an object and more a state of consciousness or power you could potentially tap into.
Interesting. So less a physical search, more a spiritual one.
In that interpretation, yes. And you even get modern ideas suggesting it might reappear physically someday, perhaps in the hands of future avatars or warriors of light, when the world needs it most.
So the story continues, in a way.
In a way, yes. But the core message, I think, across most interpretations is that while its physical form might be lost or inaccessible, its essence, what it represented, that lives on in the collective memory of the tradition. And this really brings us back to that philosophical point we touched on earlier. True power isn't ultimately in the object, the weapon itself.
Right.
It's in the hands and heart that wield it. Arjuna's real strength wasn't just his archery skill, amazing as it was. It was also his capacity to listen to wisdom, Krishna's wisdom, to grapple with profound moral doubt, and then crucially, to rise above that doubt and act.
So reflecting on all this, what does the Gandivam mean for us, for you listening now? It sounds like it serves as this potent metaphor for our own inner capabilities.
I think that's a great way to put it. Those capabilities for courage, for focused action, for aligning with what's right, they're maybe dormant, waiting to be awakened when we choose to act with truth, with devotion, with courage, facing our own battles.
But it's also, as you said, a sobering reminder.
Definitely. Though in Dharma, that sense of righteousness, cosmic order, ethical conduct, when that fades, either in society or within ourselves, even the most powerful tools, the greatest strengths, can lose their meaning, lose their power. Their effectiveness is tied to their purpose.
So the Gandivam really is far more than just some mythological artifact collecting dust on a shelf, isn't it? It feels like a living symbol.
Absolutely timeless. And I'd say, in every age, people who stand up and fight for what's right, who do so with discipline, focus, and maybe that sense of alignment with something greater than themselves, they are, in a metaphorical sense, taking up the Gandivam. Its story continues to inspire that integrity, that courage, and that unwavering focus on truth, even when it's difficult.
So perhaps a final thought for everyone listening. May you all, in whatever struggles you face, big or small, remember that silent hum of potential like the Gandivam's string waiting to be drawn. And maybe find the strength, like Arjuna, to rise and choose the path of right action, no matter what kind of storm is brewing before you. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive.